Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time we're digging into Doctor Sleep,
Oh, yeah.
that Stephen King sequel to The Shining
All right.
that you wanted to hear more about.
Yeah.
So we've got some excerpts ready to go.
Okay.
And I'm really curious to see how this book looks at how trauma can have such a long-lasting impact.
Mm-hmm.
How these psychic abilities, the whole Shining thing can actually evolve.
Okay.
And how even when you're dealing with some really creepy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
human connection can still kind of cut through all that.
It's really interesting how King takes that whole Shining idea from the first book, The Shining, and adds this whole other level to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in Doctor Sleep, it's not just those kind of spooky visions anymore. It's more like a whole bunch of different abilities.
Okay.
And we see that with, Danny Torrance. He's all grown up now. But then there's this young girl, Abra Stone.
Okay, so let's talk about this whole Shining thing evolving.
Yeah.
Because Abra, she can do things that Danny probably couldn't even imagine.
Right.
Like having these full-on conversations, but telepathically across huge distances.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that chalkboard in Danny's room at the Overlook?
Uh-huh.
Imagine Abra just writing on it,
Yeah.
but from miles away.
That is such a powerful image
Right.
that King creates there.
Totally.
And it really shows us just how strong Abra's shine is compared to Danny's.
Right.
But, King doesn't let us forget that even though these abilities sound pretty cool,
Yeah.
they have this whole other side to them.
For sure.
The darker side.
Yeah, it's definitely a double-edged sword, right?
Absolutely.
To be so tuned in
Mm.
to the pain and the fear,
Mhm.
even death of the people around you,
Yeah.
and to feel it all so intensely like Abra does,
Yeah.
that's got to take a toll.
Sure, for sure.
It's like those scenes with Danny in the Overlook Hotel,
Yeah.
but amplified.
Yes. Yeah.
Way more unsettling.
100%.
Yeah.
It's something that King really wants us to understand.
Yeah.
The burden that comes with these gifts.
Right.
But then he brings in this group, the True Knot,
Okay.
and it adds this whole other layer of complexity.
Yeah.
They're almost like parasites.
Oh,
They
wow.
feed off the shining of other people.
Right.
They call it steam.
Steam, okay.
Yeah, and they use it to fuel their own, unnaturally long lives.
This is where it gets really interesting for me.
Oh, tell me.
The way that King describes them is just brilliant.
Uh-huh.
They could be anyone you know.
Oh,
Your neighbors, the
Wow.
people you're sharing the road with on a road trip.
Yeah, Tokyo.
He actually makes them RV enthusiasts,
Hmm.
which I think makes them even creepier
Oh, I know.
because it's so unexpected.
Right.
You would never guess that underneath it all, they are literally feeding on people to avoid dying.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and their leader, Rose the Hat,
Yeah.
she really embodies that feeling,
What do you think that says about the lengths that people will go to survive,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they think that they're above regular morality?
That is such an interesting question.
It makes me think about Danny.
Okay.
He has been trying to escape his past for years.
Right.
He struggles with alcoholism,
Mm-hmm.
the trauma from what happened at the Overlook.
Yeah.
He finds a way to use his shine to help people who are dying,
Right.
to help them find peace in those last moments.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can tell that his past is still there.
Oh, yeah.
It's still haunting him.
For
And
sure.
it makes you wonder,
What's that?
how do we find that light? How do we overcome those things that feel like they'll never go away?
Yeah.
Whether they're actual ghosts
Mm.
or just the emotional baggage that we all carry around.
Right.
It reminds me of that line from the end of Doctor Sleep. And people change, but both remain interested in the same thing, telling a kick-ass story.
Ugh. That's one of my favorite lines in the entire book. Yeah, it really gets to this basic need we have to share stories, to make sense of the world.
Totally.
Especially all the hard parts.
Yeah.
And Doctor Sleep, that's definitely a story about dealing with the hard parts of life.
It really is.
Yeah.
What about Danny and Abra's stories?
Okay.
I mean, they're connected by this shared ability, right?
Yeah.
And this really dark threat they're both up against.
Right.
But there's also this shared choice
Mm-hmm.
to fight back against the darkness, even when it's terrifying.
And that is what makes it so compelling.
Yes.
Abra reaches out to Danny because she needs help.
Mm.
And that throws him right back into a fight he never wanted to have.
Yeah.
But he just can't ignore it.
Yeah.
And this is where we see how much responsibility comes with having these abilities.
Right.
So I'm curious, if you were Danny
Okay.
Knowing what you know about the true knot,
Mm.
could you turn away from someone who needed you,
Mm.
even if it meant facing something that terrified you?
I don't.
It's a big question.
It would be a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And we already know how deeply everything that happened at the Overlook Hotel
Yeah.
affected Danny.
For sure.
He knows how risky it is to fight back.
Right.
But he also understands what might happen if he does nothing.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that is the exact dilemma King wants us thinking about.
That's a lot to unpack.
It is.
But I'm hooked already.
Me too. There's so much more to explore here. You know, one of the things that really strikes me about Danny's story in Dr. Sleep is that he's not just battling these, like, external monsters, like the true knot.
Right.
It's also about him trying to overcome his own demons, his alcoholism. It's like such a powerful way for King to show how deeply trauma can affect us.
It really is.
Even years later.
Yeah, it's like he's still fighting with the ghost of his dad.
Right.
Jack.
Yeah.
The anger, the addiction.
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
it all goes back to what happened at the Overlook. But then there's this other side to Danny, too.
What's that?
This incredible strength.
Yeah.
He finds a way to actually use his shine to help these dying patients,
Right.
to guide them toward a peaceful death.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Danny's decision to work in a hospice?
It feels like such a deliberate choice on King's part.
Oh, totally.
Right.
Yeah.
You have this guy so haunted by his past, but he finds a purpose in comforting people in their final moments.
Yeah.
It's this strange paradox.
It is.
And I think it's through this work that he really becomes Dr. Sleep.
Right.
And then you have Abra, this young girl.
With a shine even more powerful than Danny.
Exactly.
And she's dealing with these terrifying visions, glimpses into these awful things that the True Knot are doing.
It's like King is reminding us that evil, it doesn't care who you are.
Right.
It can touch even the most innocent people.
Absolutely. And the contrast between Abra, she's just a kid.
And the brutality of the True Knot.
Oh my gosh.
It's just jarring.
Yeah.
King doesn't hold back on describing how they feed.
No, he doesn't.
How they drain people with the shining of their steam.
Yeah.
Until there's nothing left.
It's a disturbing image.
It is.
The way he describes what happens to Brad Trevor.
Oh, I know.
So chilling.
It's awful.
He's just a kid who loves baseball and shares secrets with his best friend.
Yeah.
And
they leave him empty.
I know, it's heartbreaking.
It's moments like that where the True Knot become more than just these monsters.
Right.
They're able to blend in, seem totally harmless.
Right.
But all the while, hiding their true nature.
Yeah.
And it really makes you question.
Oh, gosh.
How well you can ever really know someone.
It totally plays on that fear we have.
I know.
Of the unknown.
Right.
Of the darkness hiding just below the surface.
Exactly.
Makes you wonder about everyone you pass on the street.
Right. And King doesn't just keep the True Knot at arm's length. He lets us peek into their world a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we see their hierarchy, their rituals, the way they're getting more desperate as they realize their scheme supply is drying up.
Oh.
They're not invincible.
Oh, wow. So they're vulnerable, too.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
They're driven by this basic need to survive.
Okay.
Even if it means doing horrible things.
That almost makes them sympathetic, though.
It does, doesn't it?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because of how desperate they are. It's like they're addicts.
It is.
Hooked on steam.
Exactly.
Do anything to get their fix.
And like any addiction.
Right.
The more desperate they get.
The more dangerous they are.
Precisely.
Wow, that's such a good point.
And it's their desperation that leads them straight to Abra.
Right. Because they can sense how powerful she is.
Exactly.
How much steam she represents. She becomes their ultimate target.
She does.
Oh, gosh.
Which puts Danny in a tough spot.
I does.
He's forced to face his past, his own demons, because he can't just ignore what's happening to Abra.
Yeah, he knows what the True Knot are capable of.
Right.
The horrors she'll face if they capture her.
Yeah, it's like what happened to Danny at the Overlook.
Right.
Except this time, he's not the one in danger.
Right.
He has a chance to protect someone else.
Wow.
From that same darkness.
What do you think's going through his mind at this point?
He's wrestling with so much, the trauma from his past, the fact that fighting back could cost him everything. But I also think there's a new sense of purpose driving him. He's not just trying to escape anymore. He's actively choosing to confront his demons to save someone else.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is the huge transformation for him. And, this is where King's own experiences really come into play.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Danny's struggle with alcoholism.
Right.
It mirrors King's own battles with addiction.
It really adds another layer to the story.
It does, doesn't it?
Knowing that there's this real-life struggle woven into it,
yeah,
it makes Danny's journey feel even more powerful, more real.
Definitely.
It's a good reminder that even these amazing artists
right?
who create these incredible worlds, they're human too.
Yeah.
They have their own struggles behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
And it's not just addiction that King explores through this personal lens.
Right.
Like, think about Abra's great-grandmother, Conchetta Reynolds.
Yeah.
King uses her character to really dig into these big themes. Aging, mortality.
Death.
Yeah.
Her final moments are so powerful.
They are.
Heartbreaking, but also strangely beautiful.
Yeah.
And they connect with Danny's work at the hospice in this really interesting way.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like they're both searching for some kind of peace, some way to accept death.
Makes you think about our own mortality, right?
It really does.
Those big existential questions.
And King doesn't shy away from them.
No, he doesn't.
Even in this genre.
Even in a horror novel.
Right.
Yeah.
But he also doesn't give us easy answers.
He doesn't.
One thing he does show us, though.
What's that?
Is the power of connection.
Yeah. How so?
Danny and Abra, they draw strength from each other.
Right.
They're not just fighting for themselves. They're fighting for each other.
Yeah.
To create a world where the true knot can't hurt anyone else.
That's a powerful thought.
And that shared goal leads them to make some really tough choices.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
When Danny uses Conchetta's final essence.
Her steam.
Right, to give himself the power to go up against Rose.
That's such a complicated moment.
It is.
It's understandable, given what's at stake.
Right.
But still morally complex.
That blurs the lines, right?
It does.
Makes you question what's okay.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with someone as ruthless as Rose the Hat.
Right, and Danny's essentially fighting fire with fire.
Wow. Yeah.
Using that darkness against itself to protect everyone else.
He's come a long way from that scared little boy in The Shining.
He has, but he still carries all of that with him.
Yeah.
Dr. Sleep isn't just about these supernatural powers, though, is it?
It's about so much more.
It's about the choices we make, the sacrifices we make for the people we love.
Right, and it all goes back to that line we talked about before.
And people change.
But both remain interested in the same thing.
Yeah.
Telling a kick-ass story.
Yeah. What do you think? Is Danny and Abra's story kick-ass?
100%.
Yeah.
But it's also just so human, you know?
Oh, totally.
It's got darkness, it's got light, despair, hope.
And that's what makes Stephen King so good at what he does.
Yes.
He takes these huge themes,
right.
Good versus evil, the power of connection, facing our fears, and he turns them into these stories that are both terrifying and really moving.
So we spent all this time on Dr. Sleep.
We have.
What are your final thoughts? What do you think is the message King is trying to leave us with?
You know, I think it's a reminder that even when things seem really dark, there's always hope.
That's beautiful.
There's always that little spark of light, that reminder that we're stronger than we think.
Yeah.
We might not have the shining.
Sure.
But we all have the potential for courage, compassion,
right.
for making choices that really mean something.
Wow. What a great note to end on.
I think that's what makes a book really great, when it sticks with you. You know, when it makes you see things in a new way. When it starts conversations like this.
Yeah.
Long after you've finished reading it.
Couldn't agree more. It's been great diving into Dr. Sleep with you.
Yeah, this was fun.
And thank you to everyone out there for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time for another one.